rock the box we say, yeah. GBN we say, arts and culture living, yeah. Rock the box we say, I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box we say. We'll be jamming here on a Thursday. It's a
Saying a hearty good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9 on the FM dial. Those of you who are viewing us this morning via GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, or Channel 20. Good morning to you, our social media audience. Those of you via the Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning. Those of you via GBN's webpage, also that's gbn.gd. Good morning and welcome. It's Wednesday, the 20th day of March. I'm your host, the GT, and it's to the point. And it's Wednesday. Usually we host various departments within the government and other institutions within government. And of course, this morning we have with me this morning, Mr. Alvin Clouden. Good morning to you, sir. How are you doing this morning? We also should be having Mr. Patrick Simmons with us this morning. Pretty soon we, of course, will be making that link with him as soon as he gets settled in a wee bit. Mr. Clouden, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, GT, and thank you for the invitation to be here.
All right, welcome. Our conversation this morning will be based on the sports policy. And it's been talked about for numerous of years now in terms of us having an actual sports policy. And now it has gotten to a stage where we're going to get to the consultation part of it, probably consulting with folks about it, the policy, and just getting it fully activated. For a better way of saying it, and for of course, in terms of the sports in Grenada and the total management of sports in Grenada. Of course, I would have certainly loved to have Mr. Simmons with us for some reason. I'm not sure what's happening, but he's not in us as yet, and I certainly hope he taps in shortly. Let's get the conversation rolling off this morning. My first question would be, what is the present state of the National Sports Council? And what's another, of course, Mr. Clouden, this goes out to you. Outside of you, Mr. Clouden, what are the other members of the Secretariat who are on the role of that particular Secretariat?
Well, the Secretariat is a small department at the moment. We just have one additional administrative person at the Secretariat. The Secretariat is part of the National Sports Council, as you said, and which was by act commenced on the 7th of November. So the process right now is going out to the parishes to establish the parish sports councils. Okay. And once the parish sports councils are established, the National Sports Council will be formed in its entirety, which will comprise of the directors and the chairs of the various committees. Yeah. But if we want to go back, because Mr. Simmons is not yet on, we can talk about the genesis of the policy.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, the genesis.
Mr. Simmons would have been happy to have Mr. Simmons speak on that because he was probably part of the initial stages.
Correct.
He
was then Minister of Youth and Sport in 2008. Yesterday we saw the funeral service of the late Mr. Winston White.
Yes.
And Mr. Winston White was credited as being one of the first ministers of sport. And since then, I believe discussions have always been held about a national policy for youth and sport. And so over the years, several things. But in 2008, with the new administration, serious work began in putting a policy together. And there was some funding available. A local consultant came on board, and work started with the putting together of a policy. And it actually took about a year and a half to get to the stage of an approved policy.
All right.
So the policy work started in 2008, and it took about 18 months, and by November of 2010, a policy was approved and by the cabinet of the country then. So consultations was initially held there, going around the country, going around to various federations to get buy-in and that document then became an approved policy in 2010. But Mr. Simmons may be...
We see Mr. Simmons have now tapped in. Let's go over and say good morning to him. Mr. Patrick Simmons, good morning to you, sir, and welcome to the point this morning. How are you this morning, sir?
Good morning. I'm doing fine.
All right. Nice to have you with, of course, and folks, we have joining us this morning, being part of To The Point, we have Mr. Patrick Simmons. Myself and Mr. Clouden has started, and of course, he was saying the question that was asked in terms of the internet, the genesis of the sports policy and stuff like that. You may have more knowledge of it, you being a former Minister of Sports and so forth. Speak to us in relations to, of course, the sports policy and the initial stages of it from your perspective.
Well, actually, what Mr. Clouden said can suffice, because that is actually the truth of the whole matter. Started off in 2008, and in fact, it was part of our agenda campaign. So it came through because we did campaign on that, having a new structure for sports. And that new structure would have given rise to the national policy on sports and physical activity. So that is actually the genesis of it. So it started off there. And we got sponsorship from UNICEF at the time, together with the government of Grenada. So UNICEF and the government of Grenada, they were very instrumental in providing the necessary funding for that particular sports policy.
Okay. Another question I would like to pose to both of you, both gentlemen, this morning. Both of you are here this morning, and let's talk about let's see if I could get this particular question in. And before I go further, let me ask this one in particular. Now, what does the sports policy speak in as it relates to the facilities and construction, refurbishment, etc.? What does the sports policy speak of that?
Mr. Simmons is still there?
Some reason, yes. I think we may have lost him. Just an audio from him. Yes, Mr. Simmons, the question I'm asking, how does the sports policy speak to the issue of facilities, construction, refurbishment, and etc.? Tell us if you could speak on that for us a wee bit in terms of the sports policy.
Well, actually, the construction of facilities and so forth falls directly under the armpits of the Ministry of Sports.
Mr. Simmons, just for one sec, for some reason we have lost your video, and we are also live on television, so I will be happy if for some reason your video could be tapped back in. For some reason we have lost the video section. I'm hearing you perfectly via the audio, but I may have lost the video from you, so if you can have that rectified, please. All right, not sure. Mr. Clouden, you want to aid in that question until we get, of course, Mr. Simmons functioning properly again?
Right. So, there are several objectives of the policy, right? So the policy, first of all, is sports for all.
Yes.
Right? So it is to enable an organized manner for which sports is developed in the country. And that's the basis premise for the policy. And it's a policy on sport and physical activity. Right? So, yes, the premise is to ensure that sports is developed, but that also includes, as you rightfully says, infrastructure.
Yes.
Because we started playing table tennis years ago on a piece of plywood. And then we played in the yard. But now, with the development of sport, we probably want an indoor facility, we want proper lighting, we want proper boards. And that's where your infrastructure comes in.
Yeah.
And as Mr. Simmons is saying, the Ministry of Sports still has a responsibility to deal with that. But as with the policy itself, we are looking into going into the parishes, because the policy focuses on the development of the sport in the parish. Sometimes there's a conflict between the Ministry of Sport itself, or the role of the Ministry of Sport, and that of the National Sports Council.
Yes.
So the council is based on the foundational, the grassroots in the parishes, in the villages, right? So if there are infrastructural work to be done at the parish and village level, yes, the parish councils and the National Sports Council will identify that. It may have funding to deal with it, but again, comes back to the Ministry of Sport. Hey, we have identified a need in this area. how can we collaborate to ensure that that is done.
Okay.
So yes, the policy does speak to infrastructure development.
Also, what does the sports policy say when it comes to talent identification? When so let's say, we see so many young prospects who never materialize into professional careers in sports at all. Where does this policy speak on that in terms of talent identification?
And talent identification is a major pillar of the policy, together with that of the Ministry of Sport. So the talent identification, again, starts at the grassroots level, the villages, because there are instances where you might be good in school sports, come to secondary school, and then drop out.
Yes. Because
you have the talent, it may have been identified, but no one takes it further with you. So talent identification, a lot of funding will be contributing towards talent identification, and the federations will assist in that. So I always like to say the sports policy and the parish sports council, the village councils identify the talent. They bring it to a certain level. Yeah. The federations take it from there and nurture it and make it into the elite athlete, the world-class athlete. We have a few examples in Grenada, without calling names, but they were identified at the primary school level. Then they're brought into the secondary school level, and then at the national level. So yes, talent identification is going to be a major function.
How do you plan on, how's the plan on in terms of the, you said the sports council and so forth, going through and identifying these talents and merging, getting those talents together with the various sectors within the communities? What are plans going along on that level?
Right. So, as I indicated earlier, the National Sports Council now is an act by Parliament, yes. Right? So, you have the policy and is now supported by an act of Parliament. The act was passed in 2012,
yes,
but it was never commenced. So, between 2012 and 2023, the act was there, but didn't have teeth.
Yeah.
Now, in November of last year, 2023, the Act now has. So what we have done so far is things like organizing parish offices.
Yes.
Granted that in 2012, when the policy was approved, initial work started. There were a few councils formed in 2012,
yes,
and got subventions. So, for example, in Lassages, an office was built. In Guave, there was a functional sports council. And in St. Andrews, there were functioning councils. They got subventions and they started. The St. John's Council actually still exists in some form or fashion because the people there continue the work. But now with the Act and the policy, we will be able to do things in a more structured way. And that is why for the last week, we have been going to the parishes to tell and to encourage the clubs and organizations there. We want to form officially a parish sports council with your own autonomy, your bank account, your funding, those things, to move sport in your parish forward.
All right. Now, the recently announced, we've been hearing from the last couple of days about, of course, that consultation that will be taken. Speak on that a bit for me this morning.
Right. So, I wouldn't say it's consultation, but discussions.
Discussions.
Right. Because a lot of consultations took place in 2023 because there was a gap between 2012 and 2023. A lot of things changed.
Yes.
In the policy, we never had anything on mental health. We never had anything on safeguarding in sports. We had nothing on nutrition. We had very little on the diaspora. Those are things out of consultations or reconsultations in 2023 that identify these things. Mental health is a critical one,
yes,
right? So, having now worked on upgrading the policy, which will be reviewed again and then goes back to Cabinet for its approval, what we are doing now is to have elections to the executive of each of the parishes. So we have been to St. Patrick. Last evening we were in St. David. This evening we go to St. John at the conference room of the Fish Market.
Yes.
And the discussion is encouraging persons and clubs to be part of the parish councils. As we say, go out there and be disciples. You know of persons who are capable of administrating, encourage them, nominate them, bring them on board to form this executive body and the council. The council will comprise of all of the clubs, schools, leagues in the parish, together with individuals who have an interest. But it's all part of that formation that we're doing now. So we're having meetings, going out there and encouraging people to come out.
Well, the true discussion that you had thus far, how was the participation? What some of the feedbacks that have been received from that past two discussion that's gone down so far?
I would say excellent feedback. And you can see there are persons out there who are eagerly waiting this thing. We met a gentleman in St. Patrick on Monday evening. He has been a physical education officer for 40 years.
Yeah.
Not much has been heard of him nationally, but he has been in St. Patrick doing a lot of work with a lot of young persons who have grown into national sports persons, right? So the feedback is good. What we would like to see is more persons coming out to the meetings themselves so that they can spread the word. So we have to find alternative ways of attracting persons to come out to the meetings. So we have this evening, Wednesday. Thursday is St. George at the GBSS. Then Monday we at Bonaire Government School. And we are looking to shift to go to Carriacou on Tuesday and Petit Martinique, Tuesday and Wednesday next week.
Okay.
That we still are working on because that was initially done for the 4th and 5th of April. But we're trying to bring things forward a bit. But the discussions have been rich, I would say.
All right, great. We drew for a break, Mr. Clouden. Let's take that break. When we come back, we continue into the discussion this morning. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio at GBN TV. We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us, folks.
Planning and Development Authority of Grenada, PDA, is enforcing regulations to curb illegal, disorderly, and unauthorized development in several locations throughout the state of Grenada. The authority is concerned that structures mainly associated with vending are negatively impacting the environment, has undesirable public health and sanitation consequences, present obstructions to vehicle and pedestrian traffic, can become projectiles during adverse weather conditions, and generally affect the aesthetics of the nation. The PDA will work along with stakeholder ministries and institutions to effect the demolition, removal, and disposal of structures which fall in the category of illegal and disorderly development, commencing January 2024. In this regard, persons who vend in or occupy such illegal structures are advised to secure their personal belongings and have the structures removed ahead of the planned PDA demolition operations. These actions of the PDA have become necessary to safeguard and protect public health and the environment, ensure the safety and well-being of all citizens and visitors, discourage any future disorderly construction, and encourage compliance to regulations pertaining to physical development in the state of Grenada. This is a message from the Planning and Development Authority of Grenada.
Huggins Private Primary School Championship this Thursday at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium from 1 p.m.
I want you to control your anger. There's a way to feel better.
me say welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's to the point for today, Wednesday, the 20th day of March, 2024. Welcome back, Mr. Clouden with us this morning once again. And somehow we still having a little bit of issue in terms of getting a constant feed from Mr. Simmons. Hopefully that could be rectified in the next couple of minutes, and we continue. Mr. Clouden, welcome back. Let us continue on the That's another question that I would like to ask. Could you explain for me, because it's been one of those controversial talk I've been hearing around in terms of the policy. Explain the section of the sports policy that speaks to the use of maintenance of playing fields and other sporting facilities. If you could speak on that for me.
Certainly. And when the act was commenced on the 7th of November 2023, there were several calls.
Yeah.
Just as with the Ministry of Sport, there is a policy for public use. Anyone can use the facility.
Yeah.
However, what the Act attempted to do is to regulate the use of the facility. So GT has permission from the Ministry of Sport to have a keep fit class from 9 to 12.
Yes.
And he wishes to use the entire field, and he gets permission from that. So you would not want someone else coming in and saying, well, I also want to use the facility. So it is about regulating and helping. It's not about preventing. And the Act also and the policy speaks of recreational facilities in terms of physical activity. There is an encouragement for people to be able to walk, jog, whatever. With the commencement of the Act, it just highlights that there is a need to regulate the use of the facility.
So basically you say it is more keen of a misunderstanding in terms of how the Act speaks.
Correct. And I think we have been able to clarify that over time. There is a legal response to it, but I mean, in layman's term, no one is prevented from using of the facilities. There was talk of, well, I wish to walk my dog. Free to walk your dog, but also make sure that if your dog,
do whatever you are able to clean that up.
All right,
understandably so.
Yes, so it's more about scheduling rather than because I know for Carnival, there were some conflicts in terms of permission for use of facilities when different promoters,
and then we have a clash of events and so forth. Yeah.
So it's just about being able to regulate the use of the facility.
All right. Now, my next question would have called for both of you gentlemen in terms of the response on both of you. So let's take this one before. I hope we could get Mr. Simmons back in, because of course, him being part of the discussion certainly would have been a plus this morning. Now, is there anything in the sports policy that speaks specifically to Carriacou and Petit Martin? And if not, why not?
There is nothing that does not speak to Carriacou.
Anything that's in the national sports policy that's specific to Carriacou and Petit Martin.
Right.
And if there's not anything, why not? Why not?
Yes. So Carriacou is considered a parish as part of the Parish Sports Council.
Yes.
So there is Carriacou and Petit Martinique as part of the council.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, as I indicated, we will be going to Carriacou.
Yeah.
To have the same elections. The challenge with Carriacou and Petit Martinique is that you have Carriacou as the bigger of the two islands,
yes,
and then you have Petit Martinique. So you have to be able to merge or equally give resources to both. But we have had fruitful discussions in Petit Martinique. We were there on several occasions, and there are a couple things that persons in Petit Martinique would like to see. For example, improvement in their hard court facilities, and they play a lot of cricket there. So the policy does not discriminate Carriacou and Petit Martin, but it's inclusive of all.
All right. Well, happy for that bit of clarification there. Now, my next question, a bit of a swing in it for some reason or the other. How do you view, you gentlemen, of course, I wish Mr. Simmons was here, because my question is
That's okay,
for both of you. In terms of the prospect for Team Grenada, we have Carifta games coming up. We in 2020, we also have that, the fastest time on track in intercore games, for example, is still slower than times for athletes. Should I say, how can I put this out for you? Who did not qualify for the Jamaica team and Trinidad team example? How are we looking to a middle hunt wise, you say? Who are those prospects out here, you think, if you get my question away the direction
I understand, but again, that is for the federation to do.
Yes.
So the Grenada Athletic Association will look at those issues. When we're talking about talent development, the sports policy, parish sports council with the federations. So you may now be identifying a gap in our talent or standard, and therefore work has to be done. So what is required to get athletes, footballers to that next level? And that is where the discussion can be held, a strategic outlook. We need improved facilities, but we also need ability like gyms. Like last evening in St. David, the issue of a rehabilitation center, athletes getting injured. Where are we with science and technology in the sport? Those are things that may lift the standard or lessen the gap in the time between Brand Jamaica and Brand Grenada. Nutrition. What are we doing about nutrition? What are we doing about counseling of our athletes? Those are the component parts that we need to start addressing to lift our standard. But we already have high standards, and we have at least 10 athletes of an international standard. What have they done to get to that stage? Can we replicate that to our other athletes?
Yes.
Can we look at Intercall as one example of a product that probably has 1,200 athletes participating in any one event in Grenada? Carifta has 800 athletes. Okay, 1,200 athletes in Grenada. What are we doing after Intercall to ensure that our top 100 athletes continue on? What about our school system? How is our school system is going to help our student athlete? So there are several component parts that will make and lift the standard, and we have to take each component part in its bit, and that's where the policy will focus its attention on, developing and working on those component parts so that overall Grenada has a better product.
All right. So the sports policy would identify these particular products that is needed and work to enhance, as you would say.
Right. But remember, a policy is a guide.
It's a guide. It's a guide
right.
which is
and tells you what you should do.
And it set the information out to the council and so forth.
So federations can be guided by that. Parish councils can be guided by that. Those who are interested in the development of sports can be guided by that. And there may be other things that you want to change. For example, something I've always said, and we have to look at, what happens to our athlete after his or her prime time?
Yes.
Injuries. How do we deal with the issue of injuries? An athlete gets injured, cannot play for the rest of his life. Last evening we met a boxer. He's been in boxing for 28 years. He has represented Grenada. He's been at the international scene. What are we doing to sustain him after he has been? But he's still coaching. But he's challenged, he's not funded properly. How do we fund such persons to move the sport and to other things? He has given a testimony that he has been able to move or train 40, 50, 60, probably 100 boxers in different parishes over a couple of years. That is 100 persons he has moved off the streets of doing something else. So the policy speaks to all of these things, and I mean, it's wide, and I mean, we just need to get action on it. We've been talking.
And you say that, and you speak about all of the testimony that you've been hearing from the last two sessions that you have. Now, with the council following the guidance of the policy, is there a time frame that they want to get all these things up and running?
Yes, we have an internal timeline. Quite frankly, we need, as I said last evening, to have all parishes up and running by the 1st of May.
Yes.
and 1st of May of this year. We already have 4 of the parish offices established. We have the furniture for them. What we now need to do is to have the elections of officers to the parish councils and get them working. The sports will not be developed in an office. Sports will be developed out in the grassroots, in the field, in the villages. You could know from in the past, being a person from River Road, you know the likes of Pop, Bridgman, those guys played in the streets and other places. It is time for us to get to that stage where at the community and village level we can have things going.
All right. Now tell me, how do you see Grenada prospect for at Olympic Games, for instance? Has the National Sports Council Secretary been in touch with our athletes? Can they give us an update on, let's say, Kirani James, Lyndon Victor, the Cut Felix, the Anderson Peters, and others who have represented Grenada? Can you give us an update on that?
No, I cannot actually, but that is what the federations can do. I mean, at the secretariat, we may have personal knowledge, but I don't want to speak on these status outside of that of the Athletic Association.
Understandably so. See, Mr. Simmons, of course, has stepped back in. I'm not sure if he's able to, of course, give us any information, feed us any information. Mr. Simmons, are you with us still? I'm assuming not. My next.
No, I'm there.
You here? I hope you will. Well, I'm sure we're not getting a video, so we could probably accommodate you with the audio part of it. Tell us.
The video seems to be taken away from the connectivity with the platform.
Okay, so we will work with the audio feed. We will be able to accommodate that. So we are so sorry for those of you who are viewing and unable to see you, but we will work with the audio part. The audio part seems to be perfect. I've just spoken to Mr. Clouden, a question that I posed him in terms of Grenada's prospect for at Olympic Games, at the National Sports Council Secretariat and so forth. Has they been in touch with those athletes like the Kirani James and the Lyndon Victor, the Cut Felix, the Anderson Peters, etc., who will be representing Grenada? Has they been in touch? If you can share any information of that for our viewing and listening audience this morning?
Well, I think we need to get something. We need to get the correct perspective in terms of the role and responsibility of the sports councils and the way the policy should be operated. In other words, we are not working against the federations, or the council would not be working against the federations or working away from the federations and the associations and even the Olympic Committee and the ministry, but they would be working in line with these organizations. So everybody has their specific responsibilities and function. For example, any connection with the different athletes, their respective federation, together with the GOC, they will have responsibility for coordinating with them. Or the council's role, the national council role, would be assisting in that level of coordination and to make sure any way that they can contribute towards the further development of these athletes, then they will have that input. But in terms of communicating directly with the athletes, their federations are actually responsible for that. So we cannot look forward to the national council of taking a lead role in that. We will play supportive role, or the council will play supporting role in dealing with the athletes. As Mr. Clouden pointed out, the grassroots level, that is where the councils, especially the parish council, will focus most of their attention. And still, to have the talent identification and to work with the athletes at the grassroots level, you still have to coordinate with the leagues. You still have to coordinate with the associations, because the truth of the matter is that they are responsible for these athletes. So it's working in collaboration with each other so that we can bring forward the best possible results.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Simmons, I have a question that I could direct specifically to you this morning in the sun. You know, Mr. Simmons, you as a former basketballer, are you satisfied with the present state of basketball in Grenada? Is Grenada and the region in threat, of course, over the years has gone by? Grenada have been treated, should I say, as the years gone by. How are scholarship opportunities going for basketball players, especially both male and female? I don't know if you could respond to that question for me, sir.
Well, I'm really not. I'm really not satisfied with a lot of things, not only with basketball, because much more can be done. But to deal specifically with basketball, yes, I am somewhat disappointed with where we are with basketball at this time. And as far as I'm seeing, and I'm being aware of, it seems to me that the only parish right now that has something actively going for basketball in terms of grassroots development is what I'm seeing in St. Andrew. So basketball, through the association, should be playing that leading role in making sure that the sport itself is organized. The council itself now would be able to assist at the grassroots level with the improvement and the training of grassroots people, leaders within the communities, so that they will be able to formulate good club structure, formulate good clubs, and that in itself would have an impact on the parish. And so long it has an impact on the parish, it will also affect or have some effect on the national association, because now you'll have people that are more aware, people are more educated on exactly what they should be doing, so they'll make better choices in terms of voting for people that will actually look out for them, people that would seek their interests at that level. So much more could be done for basketball.
Okay, great. I didn't get to hear from you. Of course, Mr. Clouden spoke on it a wee bit. Now, the pre-election discussions and so forth that are taking place, give us some feedback on that, sir.
Well, we are in the process of engaging the various parishes. And as Mr. Clouden pointed out, and I observed that too, and in fact, I made that remark to him, or that comment to him, that the engagement in terms of the contributions that have been made by those who attended the function or attended the session has been very enlightening. I refer to it as being very rich and very encouraging. Notwithstanding that positive aspect of it, I still believe that there could have been more people participating in the event or in the function or in the activity than what actually came, or those that actually came out. But again, too, I believe that probably the strategy that was used may not be as effective as it should, because you need to go out to the communities, for example, using a PA system to meet the constituents or to meet the villagers and alert them on what is happening. Sometimes 20 might hear, and sometimes 2 or 3 may come. So we have to keep on plugging and trying to find the best possible strategy to pull them out.
Tell us about tell me some about the objective that is deemed to be obtained from these discussions from your point of view.
Okay. Now, most of the information is being recorded, and it seems to me that most of the participants, they are looking forward for something new, something that can help to elevate, especially, well, in fact, let me put it that way. That discussion we had last night, the person that made the last contribution, it was very insightful and very revealing, because here it is, that man was saying, look, he believed that is a good opportunity for this particular policy to be implemented, because by doing so, politicians will not be able to come and make wild promises, like I'll give you a piece of land, or I'll give you a car, I'll give you a house, when you perform well. But it will be enshrined in the policy. The policy will say exactly what it is that you're entitled to if you perform at that level, and if your one goal or your team did exceedingly well at that level. This is what you're entitled to as the athlete and as the coach. So in other words, the structure in itself would pre-inform the athletes on what is expected and what their rewards and incentive will be if they perform at that level.
Okay, great. Now, the policy, if I could ask you about the policy itself. Now, the policy, as Mr. Clouden has mentioned, has been out since 2008, 2012. It was actually passed and so forth, and nothing was done with it over the years. What do you see? What do you see, in terms of the policy now and all the engagement that you're having, in terms of the entire upliftment of sports and other activities here in Grenada? What would you like to see the policy bring forward for Grenada in particular?
All right. Now, we need to look at this thing from two perspectives. We must first understand that there is a policy that will guide the development of sports, and that policy is a live policy. That policy would be constantly being updated and changed in order to facilitate the new developments in sports. Additionally, we have the Act now, which is actually a creature of the Parliament of Grenada. And that Act is what gives credence to the structure that is going to be used to create that policy or to enforce that policy that we speak to. So the Act speaks directly to the formation of the National Council and the formation of the parish councils. So therefore, whatever that is being done, really the implementation of the policy would have to focus mainly on the development of these two major structures so that whatever needs to be implemented can be implemented and be accepted because it's actually the law of the land.
Okay, thank you so much. We due for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, I will invite our listeners and viewers. There may be a question or two they may like to ask. Any other input that, of course, you gentlemen would like to put in, we also will accept that. We take a quick break and we come in right back. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV.
Records at the traffic department shows that a total of 1,447 accidents were reported for the year 2012, which includes 3 road fatalities. 2,946 accidents were reported for the year 2022, which includes 8 road fatalities. This is a significant increase of 104%. This is alarming. When a family tragically loses a loved one, does it matter whether by means of a gun or a motor vehicle? To avoid accidents, drivers and pedestrians alike must exercise extreme caution when using the road.
Wait to see my granddaughter.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point for today, Wednesday, the 20th day of March, 2024. With me this morning, we have Mr. Alvin Clouden and Mr. Patrick Simmons with us this morning. And we're talking about the sports policy this morning. And in this segment, we invite your calls from our listeners and viewers. We do have our very first caller. Let's go to the line and say good morning to the caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Yeah, good morning, GT, and good morning to Mr. Clouden and to Mr. Simmons. Let me preface my contribution by quoting from the former president of Bolivia. Rivers Morales. He said, sports is the best way of engaging every human being. It is a way of integrating our people. And he said that at the 5th summit of the Americas in Trinidad in 2009. Anyway, I say that to say, when we finally going to implement the policy, it would be helpful if we take a number of things into consideration. One, it being a means to improve on the health of our people, also to help to elevate the relationship, the community aspect of it, and also to resolve the gender disparity, because we see clearly we have Kirani James, we have a few other Lyndon and so on, but we have to stamp around to get the female. So, I mean, to identify the female in the same way like we could do with the male. So I'm saying that we need to really ensure that the policies seek to narrow the gap. And then finally, in terms of participation in the process now, I think we missed the point by not factoring technology. One, technology, because for instance, I would like to attend the one in St. David. I live in St. David, but I have no means to get there and getting back to where I live. So if you had the possibility of people participating via Zoom or something like that, it was able to get more input. So we need to think that. And then also, not everybody have vehicles. And if you have the thing in a particular area, it might be difficult for those who want to get it. And I think folks could consider that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Any response to the caller contribution, Mr. Simmons or Mr. Clouden?
Yeah, let me start. Excellent point on the technology. As a matter of fact, we have considered and will look at one activity where it is totally via the platform, be it Zoom or whatever. Yes, that will be considered, or has been considered, and will be done. You will know that sooner or later. We're just juggling with the best date and time to do it, because if you look at the calendar, Monday has, I think Tuesday has an activity, Wednesday, so it's about planning the best time for it, but certainly I think that is a welcome confirmation of what we have been thinking.
All right. We do have another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to your guests. You asked Mr. Simmons about basketball, and he said he's not happy. Well, I'm not happy also, too, because most of our basketball courts, they don't have lights. And especially the one in Roseville Pasture. This one have a big crack, multiple cracks on the pitch. And you can bury a huge money in the crack. First is big. You talk about Tivoli, there is no light. Montrich, there is no light. There's a lot of courts don't have no light, and the lighting system they will use wouldn't last long. So you have to look for good lights that would last long, and keep our young men up the block, because most of the problem we have with the young men, because they're idle, nothing to really do. If you get them up the block in the night time, when you go up the basketball, get yourself tired and go home and sleep, it's all good. Have a good day, brother.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Any response to the caller? Anyone want to?
It's under the issue of facilities, yes, the Ministry of Sport has been going around identifying all the facilities that need urgent repair, and they are prioritizing which facility will be used. But here is where the Parish Sports Council comes into being.
Yes.
The Parish Sports Council now will have a better detailed view of all of the facilities within its parish
that needs
repairs, that needs monitoring. They will do that work. Once they need further assistance in developing other things, then it comes to the National Sports Council, it comes to the Ministry of Sports. But the Parish Council will take a responsibility for the infrastructure monitoring. I don't want to use the word maintenance, but monitoring. So an identification of where we need to focus on and prioritize the areas. Because we are doing some mapping also. There are a few facilities that are not in the best of locations. And we always think of the one in palmis, and what people call
the
cowpen, right? Okay. So what else can you use that facility to do and for? So those are the kind of work that Mr. Damian Castle at the Ministry of Sport is doing, and he has been identifying, and sooner or later with the implementation of the parish councils, we will eliminate some of those challenges.
Okay. Any response, Mr. Simmons, if you can? Or you...
Well, I want to say that the council in itself will find itself in a good position to be able to identify the facilities in the various parishes that may need upgrading, because they will be on the ground and actually working with the different clubs and teams and leagues within the parish. So they will have first-hand information on what needs to be done in terms of the upgrade of facilities. But this information now will definitely need to be channeled back to the ministry with responsibility for sports to ensure that whatever upgrading can be done will be done. And not only that, but this in itself must be done in a timely manner, because it must coincide with the budget cycle. So coincide with the budget cycle would put the different parishes in a good position to have access and to benefit from whatever is budgeted for facilities development. Plus, with having now a coordinator for sports, which actually the policy itself speaks to. You have a deputy coordinator that would be responsible for facilities, and there should also be a deputy coordinator that would be responsible for programs. So that again in itself is in the making. So when we have that structure being fulfilled, then it will put the both teams, meaning the ministry and the councils, in a better position to accommodate the various parishes.
We do have another caller. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, sir, and to your guests. I don't believe, I'm going on to the intercall now, I don't believe the intercall sports is fair. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The small schools, Boca Secondary, Karakou, all the small schools, they are competing against the bigger schools. So there is no way they're going to win an intercall. I strongly believe that the small schools should compete against each other and the big schools should compete against each other and get a winner between the two sides. Just as the boys run, they do the athletics and so on, and the girls do the athletics separately because it's going to be a disadvantage if the boys and the girls compete against each other. The same thing with the small schools. We have to get this thing straight. It is not a fair situation. It's not a level playing field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Any response to the caller?
Yes, I'll make a personal comment on it, and it's purely personal. So this is track and field intercall. Do we say the same thing for football when the small schools like Boca are the ones dominating football? Netball, Happy Hill Secondary School has always been a dominant force at netball. But you say they are a small school for track and field. Is it the same with the other sports? So let us not just look at one particular sport, track and field, to make that comparison.
All right. Mr. Simmons, any response?
Yes. What I would like for that caller to do is to define to me when he says small school, what he actually means. Because I'll give you a good example. For example, in the eyes of the public, and the perception would be SAS in itself should be a big school. Big school because of the population of the school. But if you're going to look at it from the intercall perspective, where you have SAS probably may have 200 to 300 and something boys and have to compete with a school like PBC, which you may consider to be a small school, but actually PBC has 200, 300, probably 400 and something boys. And the same thing with the GBSS. And the same thing with girls with Anglican High. So it will be somewhat difficult to start looking at having this separation between small school and big school, because you will have problems in identifying and separating at the intercol level to have the sports being run off.
Okay. We do have another caller. Caller, good morning and welcome. We may be our final caller for the morning. Caller, good morning.
Hello, hi, good morning. I just want to say I'm so happy for this sports thing putting in place, because some of our children really suffering after going and do what they like in the school. Some injured, something happened to them. You see all the pressure and the parents, because right now a young man going to play football, something wrong with him. You see the child coming up and the hospital step with a clutch going down with his mom, nobody. So if something in place, they will that policy should take care of this situation and help ease up the burden on parents. So I'm happy for that policy they implementing in sports. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Mr. Clouden, Mr. Simmons, closing comments this morning?
Yes. I'll go first. Club structure. Club structure is what will build sport. And that is why the appeal is to go out in the parishes to help the development of clubs, build the capacity so that they can administer the sport and leave the athlete to participate and grow their talent. The other thing, just to mention, that July 2025 or around that period, the first national championships will be held among the parishes. During this year of the 50th anniversary, there are some parishes that are having its parish competitions and parish activities, sports and activities. Those will dovetail into a national championships in 2025, and it will be held every 2 years. It will be held the year after the cycle of Olympic and football. So those are big things that are happening, and we are looking at also things like national awards, which is separate to the national awards of the GOC. But here you're awarding on a parish basis persons who have done well in their parishes and have been identified for success.
All right. Mr. Simmons, any closing contribution this morning? Mr. Simmons, are you with us? We may have lost Mr. Patrick Simmons there. Of course, well, it's already a minute going after 10 o'clock this morning. Mr. Clouden, I want to thank you for being on the program this morning. So sad we could not get a closing contribution from Mr. Simmons this morning, and I'm not sure what happened.
I'll make one for him.
Go right ahead.
Come out. We are at the conference room of the Goa Fish Market this evening, beginning at 6. Tomorrow evening, we at the Grenada Boys Secondary School at 6. So please come out, and then we in St. Mark on Monday with at the Bonnet Government School, and we are looking at coming to Carriacou shortly, but we will announce that by tomorrow. But we hopefully want to come to Carriacou on next Tuesday to speed up the process.
All right. Once again, Mr. Clouden and Mr. Simmons, I want to thank you both for being on the program this morning, sharing information that you did. I certainly hope a lot of clarification in terms of the misunderstanding that folks may have been having from the soon to be implemented from the council and the policy that and so forth. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Hey, folks, that's how we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point for today, Wednesday. Join us again for another edition, which will be tomorrow once your mighty permits. Have yourself a good one, folks. That's what we say goodbye.